What does scholarship negotiation mean? What does it mean to you? What should it mean to you? What are the things that you need to be thinking about as you go through scholarship negotiation? Today, I really just want to focus on this whole concept of scholarship negotiation, and we are going to be talking about this a few times in the next couple of months. For those of you who are new, my name is Sydney Montgomery. I'm the CEO of Montgomery Admissions Consulting, and I specialize in working with first generation and minority law school applicants. And today is about this word, scholarship negotiation. I actually had the great pleasure of recording with Mike Spivey yesterday for my podcast. I was a guest on Status Check with Spivey a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months ago at this point, and we talked about diversity statements and adversity with his partner, Derek Meeker, at Spivey Consulting Group. I actually had the pleasure of recording with Spivey for my podcast yesterday. We talked about a number of things, mental health and wellness and anxiety in the law school admissions process. But one of the things that we talked about was scholarship negotiation. And that podcast episode will come out this Wednesday. So make sure that if you aren't following us or subscribed to our podcast, Break into Law School, definitely do that. All of the live portions of this that, where I answer your questions, all of that gets streamed into that podcast. So it's really great because you can take it wherever you go. But I really loved what he had to say. He said that, the word negotiation, it automatically sets up almost a zero sum situation, right? In a negotiation, there's sometimes a winner and then there's sometimes a loser. And rather than thinking about negotiation and thinking about, oh, I'm trying to win with the schools or I'm trying to convince them to give me more money, um, I think that it should really be a scholarship conversation. If you know me, you know by now that I believe that this entire process is relational and not transactional. And I think the more that we can approach it with a relationship building in mind and not just transaction, the happier we will be, the healthier we will be, and also, honestly, the more successful we will be. I actually was working with a student this morning, and we were talking just about this. We were talking about her scholarship negotiations, and I told her, people don't go into admissions to say no. That's just that's just not why they took that job. Think about yourself for a minute. Think about the fact that admissions are humans, and they have families and they have kids. I want you to like imagine an admissions officer probably has like maybe a 3-year-old or a 7-year-old running around at home, and maybe they also had takeout for dinner instead of cooking. Maybe they also like to watch Abbott Elementary or The Wonder Years. These are my favorite shows right now. Maybe they're just kind of like you. They're just a person. And I think the more that we can humanize the people in admissions, honestly, the more successful we will be in the entire process, not just in the application at the beginning stages, but also here when we're talking about money and scholarships. So if we imagine that the people in admissions are humans with human thoughts and needs, and they're just regular people, they didn't take this job to sit on their high horse and be like, ah ha ha, you want more money. No, no money for you. Ah ha ha, we denied another scholarship request today. That sucker's gonna pay full sticker. It's just, that's just not who they are as people. That's just not what's going on here, right? They want to help. Most people who go back into admissions, first off, they don't do it for the money, with some exceptions, especially the lower, more entry level positions in admissions. It doesn't pay that well. So just want to put that in perspective. They don't do it for the money. This is their job, and they do it because they love to help people. They do it because they love admissions. They want to be part of shaping the next class for that school. Oftentimes, they also really love their school. So you'll see a lot of alumni become admissions because the school transformed their life and they want to give back and be part of shaping the next culture and the next generation, for that school. And so there's always that. Um, and you're like, well, Sydney, why are you talking to me so much about the motivations behind why people go into admissions? And why am I supposed to be imagining them as this, nice person who may or may not be underpaid for the job, because honestly, higher ed needs to start paying a little bit more. But that is a different topic for a different day. The reason why I want to talk to you so much about the behind lives of admissions, and granted, I have not served from admissions, but I have lots of colleagues who have. And the reason why they go into that job is because they love it and they want to help. They are by nature helpful people. So, helpful people do not need to be talked at or talked to in the scholarship negotiation process as if they are, on the other end of some kind of high powered corporate deal where it's like, show me the money or show me the door. That's just not the attitude that you should be taken when you think about admissions. I think so often we actually don't even picture them as people. So often we just see the admissions people as stand ins for the gatekeepers. They are the reason why I can't come to this school, or they're just the person, but really it's the school that I'm thinking about. And instead of thinking about them as people, we just think about the school itself. And maybe we think about the endowments, right? Harvard has so much money. They're, evil maybe with how they deal with their money. I don't know. People say lots of things. I don't think that Harvard's evil at all. But whatever your thoughts are about schools and endowments, we tend to project that onto the people that work there, and that is dangerous. That is a dangerous thing, right? No matter where you are, whether it's admissions or whether it's corporations, no matter how you feel about Amazon or Jeff Bezos, there are real people who work for Amazon. There are real people who work for Google. There are real people who work for the Gates Foundation and Microsoft. There are real people who work for Harvard and, and Yale and Stanford and University of Baltimore and Maryland and Rutgers and Seton Hall. There are real people who want to help you. So when you think about this term scholarship negotiation, I really want you to focus instead on scholarship conversation. And just like I told you in your essays, just like I told you with, you know, anything that you do, you want to try to be your most authentic self. I've talked to you a lot about how we make this a conversation. What does it look like to have a conversation about scholarship? So sometimes it means just being honest. So I'll tell you a story. I didn't know about formal scholarship negotiation or financial aid appeal letters or honestly anything when I was applying to college. I sort of did a lot of it on my own. I was very grateful I got into Princeton, and the amount of money that they gave, it just wasn't enough. It just really wasn't enough. And like I said, I was 17. I had no idea about financial aid appeal process or anything like that, but I did know how to advocate for myself, and I did know how to be honest. I have always been a very transparently honest person, for better or for worse. That's just how I'm built. And so I remember I went to Princeton financial aid office and I said, "Listen, this is amazing. This is amazing that I got into Princeton." I'm like, we're all running around screaming, we're doing dances, we're throwing parties. We're all very happy. However, my parents, they actually can't afford whatever it is that you said you could afford. I think it was like something like 20 something thousand dollars a year. Yeah, and my parents were like, yeah, we don't have that. So, I was like, I really want to come to Princeton. I love everything about Princeton. I'm here for it. I will commit today. However, I can't. I can't commit to Princeton because we can't afford this. Is there anything that can be done? Are there any other scholarships? Or is there anything, And I told them about my parents' situation. My parents had actually separated in my junior year, and they were in the middle of a divorce. I had a baby sister who was like 6 at the time. We just really didn't have it. I worked a couple of jobs, my parents worked a couple of jobs each. Like we really just didn't have it. And I was just honest with the admissions. I was just really honest with them about the situation. And they came back with 11,000 more a year, and I went to Princeton, right? I still ended up borrowing for some of that, but it was an amount that we felt a lot more comfortable with me borrowing. And so, that was kind of my very first experience and my very first foray into this scholarship negotiation, financial aid appeal, what have you. When it comes to law school, I honestly recommend doing something similar. You will always catch, what is it, more flies with honey than vinegar or something like that, right? If you're honest and transparent and say, hey, look, I'm going to be the first person in my family to go to law school. I'm so excited about Sunnyside University. Sunnyside University is actually my first choice. I love everything about it. Maybe you applied ED, maybe you didn't. Maybe it's just the place where you feel the most at home. But the reality is, even though you've saved some money, it's just not enough to cover this, and you're really concerned about how many loans you're going to have to take out. And be honest, right? Be genuine. This is not the place to say this to every school, even if it's not the school you want to go to, because why, right? This is not a game. We're not collecting acceptances. We're not collecting scholarships. We're not doing this so that we can post on Instagram or on TikTok. I got into 12 schools and I got them each to give me half tuition scholarships. You can only go to one school, right? You can only go to one school. I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in the schools we didn't get scholarship from or the schools we didn't get in that we lose sight of where we did get in and where we did get scholarship money. And the fact that you can only go to one school. So you don't need every school to negotiate your financial aid. You just need some of your schools or the schools that you really care about to negotiate your financial aid. So, um, think very hard. Why do I want more money from this school? And that really should be your first question. Why do I want more money from this school? Is it because it's a school I really want to go to? Then great, let's lead with that. I really want to go to this school, but I can't afford what it's currently going to cost me to go to this school. That's a genuine and honest conversation. Maybe they can give you more merit money, maybe they can't. Maybe they can show you some other scholarships or fellowships. Maybe they have need-based aid, maybe they don't. But at least you're starting from an honest place. Now, yes, if you have an offer from another school, you can definitely mention that. Let's say, instead of Sunnyside University, there's just Sunny University. And Sunny University is ranked a little higher and they gave you more money, but you still want to go to Sunnyside University, then it's not, well, Sunny University gave me this, so what you gonna do? Because if I'm Sunnyside University, I'm gonna be like, go there, deuces, right? Like, I don't want you, you're rude, you're arrogant, you're entitled. I don't want you at my law school. Go to the other law school with another offer, then I don't care. Right? Think about how someone, would react if you were talking to a human, right? A person like that. You would feel some kind of way. You would feel like, well, okay. I don't respond well when people, step to me like that. And I don't know that anyone really does. So I don't know why we think that's exactly how we should approach law school negotiation, right? But instead say, listen, I really like Sunnyside University because it's close to home, because my kids can stay at their school, because when I met with the Black Law Students Associations, I knew it felt like home. And, I was wondering if there'd be any way for us to get more money to make this more affordable, more attainable, more reality for me and my family. I did get this other offer from another school and they gave me more merit money. And so I was wondering if there was anything that maybe you could look at again in my application to see if perhaps I could get more money or be reconsidered from some additional merit money that I didn't have before. Right? Do you see how that doesn't feel like you're just coming up with this entitled reason for why you need more money? It actually feels genuine. Like, oh, okay, there are real reasons why you want to go to my school, and you're understandably, you know, confused or considering going to another school because they gave you more money. And you would love to be able to come here if we could match that amount of money because you want to come here, but financially, you also have to do what's best for you and your family. Like, that's a whole tone shift that I think we need to be taking more in this process. because that is the tone shift that's going to be more successful. I want to help you now. The other thing that I told to my student this morning is that try to think of admissions as being on your team. Instead of this adversarial relationship where like they have the thing that you want and you just want them to give it to you and they're not giving it to you and so we're on other sides of the desk. I want you to think of it as like they accepted you. They accepted you. They want you to come to this school, right? If they didn't want you to come, they would have just denied you. They actually spent a lot of time reading your file, right? They want you to come to the school. You want to go to that school. Hey, everyone wants the same thing. Why don't you start looking at them as being on your team? Everyone's team Sydney going to Sunnyside University. We just need to figure out together how we can get Sydney to Sunnyside University, right? What does that look like? How can we make this happen? I think if we start looking at people at admissions as being on your team and not on the other side of an adversarial relationship, we can come up with some things. Are there additional work study that you can qualify for? Could they let you know if someone turns down a scholarship and they have extra scholarship dollars maybe at the end of May or June? Like, are there things that you could apply for that you overlooked? Are there things that you maybe didn't put in your application that could have qualified you for a special kind of scholarship? When you think of admissions as on your team and not as the enemy, then you're able to do more together. Can they make a call to financial services or student financial services? Is there, some merit money held by a professor or a department, right? Like, again, these are things that you wouldn't really know unless you have a relationship with admissions. And by that, I don't mean some secret backdoor, slimy, secret sauce relationship. I just mean normal human to human. I went to a forum or a fair or an info session. I talked to you and you liked me, and then I applied, and then you said yes, woo, yes, right? And then I didn't get the money that I needed, but I still really want to go, and you want me to come. So, hey, let's figure out how we can work on this together. I really just want to stress the relationship building part of this process. And here's another reason why I'll say relationship building is so important. Law school is actually very small. The legal community is incredibly small. And there may come a point or a time in your life when you may need something, or you may want to, like me, pivot into admissions, or some other area in which you find yourself needing to make those connections with the people at the school. I can tell you that my student financial services, they were so helpful to me when I experienced a lot of health issues, when I experienced a lot of yeah, just health issues that needed to be reimbursed during my time in law school. Actually, they wrote me a check. They covered it for with a grant with the medical exception. A lot of my medical costs at Student Financial Services. They were so nice to me. But I can imagine if I were rude to Student Financial Services in this process, right? If I called them up and said, you guys don't care about students, all you care about is money, I hate you, and then I needed them during my first year, or I needed them during my second year, they're gonna be like, weren't you the girl who like cussed us out on the phone? Oh no, we don't have anything to help you, we're sorry. Because they will remember you. How you interact with people, with staff, with admissions, even the person that answers the phone, how you interact with them in this process, it matters. Because law schools are small. The people that work at law schools, they're a tight-knit community. They talk. They talk about that applicant that was rude or that admitted student who was demanding. Listen, you don't want to be that person because your reputation will precede you before you even get there. So, even in this process before you got into school, I want you to be thinking about the character. Who am I? How do I want to seem to admissions, to faculty, to staff? How do I want to comport myself in this time period? And how can I be the most authentic self possible? Because by being your most authentic self and by being genuine in your asking, you will actually find yourself more successful. There will be people who will be more willing to help you through this. So it's really very important. And if you're saying, well, I don't really have any connections, I didn't go to any fairs or forums, I didn't go to any info sessions, I only kind of sort of. Maybe once I emailed admissions, but I don't really have anyone to talk to. How can I start this conversation? Introduce yourself now. Pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I'm an admitted student. Listen, you're an admitted student. They love you, right? I'm an admitted student. I really just wanted to introduce myself. I was wondering, I know you guys are very busy. Is there anyone that I could talk to for 5 or 10 minutes about my aid package or about my merit award? And start the conversation there. But again, this is not something you need to try to do for every school because you're not trying to game the system. You're not trying to collect admissions letters. You're not trying to collect scholarships. This isn't some bragging rights thing. You are trying to go to one law school and you are trying to make that one law school the most affordable. You may have a short list of a few different law schools that you are trying to see. Maybe you have a short list of 4 law schools, and these are the 4 you really want, and you're not really sure which one you're going to go to because it's going to come down to money. Well, then it's okay to have that genuine and honest conversation with those 4 schools. But you should not be having this conversation with 14 schools because there's no way that you are seriously considering all 14 schools. I don't care if it is the top 14, right? You're not considering seriously all of them because they're different schools. And if you don't know, and you're like, well, I like all top 14 equally, that means you haven't done your research. You haven't talked to students at the school. You haven't looked at their clinics and journals and professors. You haven't been paying attention to some of their bar passage rates, their employment rates, where you want to practice. You haven't done your research because the T14, I mean, the spectrum of schools is really large. They're all fantastic schools, but they're all very different schools. Some are very small, some are very large, some are in cities, some are in more rural areas. They have different philosophies and mindsets. They have different grading systems. They have different offerings. So honestly, if you're telling me that all 14 of the top 14 are a perfect fit for you, you don't actually know what you're looking for in a law school. And I would take some time to really think about that. And then once you figure that out, you will be able to narrow it down to maybe 4 schools or 3 or 4 schools that you are seriously considering. And you might need some more scholarship money or information in order to help your case. Now, you may not be successful. There is nothing that says they must give you more scholarship money. I think this is a really important point. Sometimes we get an offer, we're like, ready to negotiate. I'm ready to get my full ride. But then we look at it as a failure if they say no. You are not entitled to more scholarship money. It is okay to advocate to make it more affordable and attainable for you, but you are not entitled to more scholarship money. And I think this is just so important because um, if we act like this is something that is owed to us, we will feel wronged when we do not get it. But if you start from the premise that this is not owed to you, well, then, you know, you won't feel wronged if you don't get it, and you'll feel overjoyed if you do get something. I've heard students say, well, they only went up $3,000. Bruh, that's an extra $3,000 you did not have before. Say thank you, please. Right? So I want you to lead with gratefulness and graciousness in this process. And remember that nothing is owed to you. Um, and I have a video on finding outside scholarships to law school. I also have a page on my website for outside scholarships. I want you to also remember my last point is that the law schools are not the only way to fund your education. There are several ways to fund your education outside of just the merit aid or even the need-based aid that you might get from law schools. So yes, it's great if you can get that full ride scholarship, that full tuition plus stipend from a law school. But if you cannot, that does not mean that you have failed or that you cannot go to law school. That just means that you need to look for outside sources of funding. And that is important that you take agency over your own law school funding, that you take agency over the process. Because when you take agency back, You won't feel so panicked about maybe what the schools did or did not give you because you will have a different game plan, right? Your whole plan is not just relying on what the schools give you. So, those are kind of my 3 points, right? What is scholarship, quote unquote, negotiation? How you can make it more of a conversation, to remember the humanity on the other side of the desk, to be gracious and grateful and not come in with an entitled attitude. And then to remember that you have agency in this process, that you are in control of your scholarship dollars, not the school, and that you absolutely can find a way to make law school affordable. So, guys, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here and for, of course, always your questions and dedications. If you found this video helpful, make sure that you rate and review. Make sure that you subscribe and share it with a friend. And I will see you guys very soon.